Harry Houdini, yeah. The name just makes you think of escapes, those incredible feats, and like a mystery that, I don't know, still gets us today. But what if I told you there's more to Houdini? We're diving deep today, going way past the handcuffs, even the milk can, to find out about the man, not just the legend. This guy who, and it's true, mastered illusions, but then he also kind of went to war with deception itself.
It's true. His grip on us, on how we imagine things, it's incredible, really. Like, he figured out not just how to get out of restraints, but like what makes us fascinated on this like whole other level, that
Yeah.
deep down need to see something impossible, to see someone beat, I don't know, the unbeatable. It's strong.
And Houdini, he got us there. But what we forget is, well, it didn't start with grand stages, none of that.
Yeah.
Picture this. Young kid, Eric Weiss, born in Budapest in 1874, comes to America with his family. Not really, legendary beginnings.
And yet, those early years, right in the middle of New York City, dealing with, well, poverty, hardship, that probably made him who he was, wouldn't you say? That drive, that toughness, that need to escape, like literally, but also, in a bigger sense, it's all there.
And talk about a name change. Weiss to Houdini, a nod to, get this, his idol, this French magician, Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin. Makes you wonder, was this just, I don't know, a young guy showing respect, or was it like a statement about what he wanted to be?
I think it's got to be deliberate, putting himself in line with these magical greats, but then at the same time, setting up his own thing, his own spectacle.
And about that spectacle, let's talk escapes. You've
Yeah.
got the milk can escape, this classic image, him trapped, the clock's ticking. I mean, talk about suspense. But what's really interesting is how he brought the audience in.
Oh, he knew. He knew how strong fear is. Having everyone hold their breath with him, he wasn't just getting out. He was like creating this shared feeling, that tension, then relief. It's subtle, but man, it's brilliant. It makes a connection.
And that connection, it got even deeper with escapes. Like, well, think about the Chinese water torture cell. He designs this death-defying act, does it, but then he copyrights it, even performs it for, like, just one person, just to make sure it's legally his.
Shows you how he thought ahead, Houdini, he wasn't just a showman. This was a businessman who understood his craft and that it was valuable, like intellectual property.
And he didn't mind sharing the stage either. He wrote down some of his methods, put them in books.
Yeah.
Now, you'd figure a magician would keep those secrets close, right? But Houdini was different.
This is the real magician's heart right here. It wasn't just about the tricks themselves. It was about, I don't know, pushing the whole art form forward, taking it from cheap tricks to like real art.
But it wasn't just other magicians he was trying to teach. Him going after those fake spiritualists, the ones taking advantage of grieving families, that's a whole other side of him.
Yeah, that dedication to the truth, it's what gets me. It wasn't enough for Houdini to just be great at illusions, he felt like, I think. He had to use what he knew to protect people from being tricked. We don't hear about that side much, but it's big, You can't understand him without it.
It's like he was, I don't know, running two shows at once.
Yeah.
Right? The master illusionist and then this crusader fighting against fake hope. You have to wonder, what made him go after these spiritualists so publicly?
Well, think about the time, World War I, it had just happened. Everyone was grieving, and they wanted, I don't know, connection, some sign that the people they lost were, I don't know, still out there somewhere. Spiritualism, it gave them that, right? And these mediums, whether they were for real or not, they stepped right in.
And Houdini, being able to see through tricks like he could, he saw right through it, didn't he?
Exactly. Like, take Mina Crandon. Marjorie, they called her. Big-time medium back then. Huge crowds at her seances. But Houdini, he saw how she did it, every trick. Showed everyone how easy it was to fool people, especially when they're already hurting, missing someone they lost.
Didn't he even get Scientific American involved? Like, they offered a reward, real money, to any medium who could prove they were legit, under controlled conditions, of course. That's a power move right there.
That's right. Nobody ever got the money, but it really showed everyone what Houdini was about. He was all about being skeptical, thinking critically, and get this, he even went up against, wait for it, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Conan Doyle. I mean, this is the guy who created Sherlock Holmes, the king of logic, right? And here he is, totally believing in spiritualism. What a clash.
Right. It shows you how complicated believing in things can be. Two brilliant guys, both amazing at seeing details, figuring things out, and yet totally different when it came to, well, the supernatural. And it caused a real rift between them. They had this very public, very nasty falling out over it.
Makes you wonder, Were they drawn to each other because of this shared love for mystery, but just from different angles, and then that same thing tore them apart? But speaking of mysteries, we can't forget the big one, right? How Houdini died.
Right. It's almost like too perfect, too dramatic. For a guy who built a career on cheating death, Halloween night in 1926, Houdini dies. Peritonitis, they said. Inflammation in his abdomen. Apparently, a fan punched him in the stomach, a few times even.
So the story is, this fan wanted to test those iron abs.
Right.
And those punches, they say, that's what ruptured his appendix, and, well, that was it.
Yeah, that's the story everyone knows. But even now, people still debate what actually killed him. Did the punches really do it, or did he already have a bad appendix and it just got hidden by this whole weird event?
And his insurance company, they paid double because of those punches. That just makes it even more suspicious, don't you think? Like something out of one of his escapes.
Totally. Even in death, he left us guessing. A final illusion, you could say. And it just shows you how powerful his legacy is.
It's like we try to figure out what really happened in his final act. But that line between what's real and what's illusion, it gets all blurry, you know?
Yeah.
And speaking of blurry lines, what about, well, what did Houdini leave behind? I mean, there are museums, artifacts, even a whole hall of fame for magic dedicated to him. It makes you think, what would he think about all that?
Shows you how big of an impact he made, don't you think? Almost 100 years after he's gone, and people are still drawn to him, his story, how clever he was, and that, well, the mystery of it all.
Right.
Though keeping that legacy alive, it hasn't always been easy. Remember that fire at the Houdini Magical Hall of Fame?
Oh, yeah. The one in Niagara Falls. So sad. All those artifacts gone or ruined. Really shows you how fragile these things are, you know, these connections to the past.
It really does. But hey, on a brighter note, people are really trying to make what's left of Houdini's collections easier to get to. For researchers, for anyone who's interested. Imagine the stories those archives could tell.
You know, like opening a treasure chest full of secrets. Makes you wonder what's still out there, waiting to be found. But I keep thinking about this. Why are we still so, I don't know, captivated by Houdini today? What is it about him that still gets to us?
Maybe it's because he represents something, well, something essential about us, about being human, that drive to push further, to test our limits, to face something impossible and come out on top. He reminds us that we can do more than we think, you know, that we can break free, not just from physical chains, but from the chains in our own minds, and that we can achieve amazing things.
And maybe, just maybe, part of why we're still so drawn to him is because of the mysteries he left behind, those unanswered questions.
Yeah.
Did those punches actually kill him? Or was there something else? Was he really just this incredible illusionist? Or was there something more to his whole fight against spiritualism?
It's those unanswered questions that keep us coming back. They make us look at our own beliefs, question what we think is true, and, I don't know, embrace the unknown. And maybe, in a way, that's the greatest illusion of all.
Leaving us with more questions than answers, huh? A fitting way to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Harry Houdini. So next time you hear his name, remember, there's always more to find, more to think about, and who knows, maybe even a little bit of magic to discover along the way.